This vertical bike mount might be one of the best values when it comes to transporting more than one bike. And it was born in one of the world's most toughest terrains, Australia. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down what makes this bike rack great, but where it could also use some improvements. So stay tuned and let's get into the video. First off, let's talk about the value proposition of this bike rack. A similar vertical bike rack from OneUp USA is going to start at about $1,200 for the 5-bike model and $1,400 for the 6-bike version. Another super popular option is the Velociracks. These start at $799 for the 3-bike version and go up to $985 for the 7-bike option. So looking at the 3 racks in the 5-bike version, the JB Racks comes in at $650 and the OneUp USA comes in at $1,200 and the Velociracks at $885. That means that this is actually one of the best value options for a vertical bike rack. The JB Rack comes in at a super competitive price point, even comparing to the OneUp USA equipped double bike rack, which comes in at $805. This one will hold a lot more for less. Now, let me make something super clear here. The build quality of the OneUp USA racks is absolutely in a league of its own. They're built in the USA, but you do pay a premium for that. And that's not to say that this isn't built well. This is built well. The rack is made from ISO standard steel, which makes this rack quite strong. But one thing to note is that if you do decide to use an impact driver to install the nuts and bolts during installation, make sure you set some sort of torque limit, because I was actually able to bend the steel slightly during installation. Truthfully, this was probably my fault though, as I didn't actually have a limit set on my impact driver. Overall, the build quality of the rack seems pretty good, and in my month of testing the rack, it's been solid. Like I mentioned before, this rack was designed and engineered in Australia. So, however, with most things, it is made in China. However, when I asked the owner and founder and creator of this rack, Jameson, about it, he did confirm that they do work with an ethical manufacturing partner, which I was actually really glad to hear. So don't let that hold you back though. The rack seems pretty solid and comes with a 3-year comprehensive warranty. So this rack is capable of carrying up to 220 pounds of total weight, and each spot can actually hold up to 70 pounds. So you really shouldn't have a problem loading this thing up full of bikes. E-bikes though is a different story. Keep in mind that while you can hold 70 pounds per spot, the overall weight limit is 220 pounds overall. So depending on how much your e-bikes weigh, you could potentially go over the weight limit of 220 pounds. Each basket can hold between a 24 and a 29 inch wheel. However, I was actually able to put a 20 inch by 2.8 wheeled bike in here without any issues. According to JB Racks, the rack does come in at 57 pounds. This is quite a lot lighter than the other options of OneUp USA and Velociracks, as those weigh almost double. For an extra $185, you can also pick up the shed stand. This allows you to store the stand in your garage and use it as a way to store your bikes. The shed stand is compatible with any rack that's set up for a 2-inch hitch, so technically you could use a OneUp or a Velociracks in here as well. And now, honestly, one of the things I'm most excited for is actually this stand. I don't always need to carry around 5 bikes, so being able to utilize it when it's not installed on the truck is a huge plus for me. I really like this rack. However, I think there are a few things that I would like to see improved in a future version. The application of this logo could be way cleaner. This looks like it was done with a stencil and some spray paint. Something that's really important is a brand image, and this is your brand and you should really take pride in it. The included straps to tie down your bikes are really nice. However, I would have liked to seen the straps be just a little bit longer, as I really have to stretch them out to get them over a 29er wheel with a 2.4 inch tire on it. My only other complaint here is that I wish these end points on the straps were a smaller diameter hole. They're the same as the other one, and I find that I've actually had these fall off before. It doesn't take much. So yeah, on a future version, I would actually like to see the end hole be a little bit smaller than everything else, just to make it a little bit harder for it to come off. The good news is though, if you do lose any of these, they do actually have upgraded ones that you can buy on their website. Installing the bikes are rather easy. Simply put the front wheel into the basket and tie down the front and rear wheels. One thing I actually forgot to mention here is the fact that you can actually change the height of the bottom bar to better suit the size of bikes that you need to load up. The hitch does have a bolt that you can tighten down to help decrease the amount of wobble and play in the hitch itself. The rack can actually fold to save space, but I'll honestly never really utilize this as it's always going to be living in the garage as a place to hold bikes when it's not actually on the truck. With the help of my two boys, I was able to get this rack built up fairly easily. The rack did come packaged fairly well, although it could be a little bit better. My only other complaint is the fact that it did not come with a printed instruction manual, and the only instructions available are from something that Jameson had filled on his website. While the instructional video on the website was fairly good, I would have actually liked to have seen a printed manual of some sort to kind of make it a lot easier. Not everyone is going to be able to go on and watch the video to help build this item. So overall, this rack has been great over the month that I've been testing it. And while I haven't done any extensive drives with it thus far fully loaded, it's handled everything that I've thrown at it. So if you're interested in picking up one of these racks, you can head over to jbracks.com or use the link down in the description below. And like I said previously, I actually really like this rack. If I need to bring more than 2 racks, I am definitely going to be loading this thing up full of bikes, and that's not going to take much given the fact that I have a wife and 2 kids that also ride whenever we go camping. So in summary, I really like this rack. It's going to be my go-to rack to use whenever we have a family outing that requires me to bring more than 2 bikes. And when it's not in use, it's always going to be in use thanks to the shed stand where I can store my bikes in the garage, not being cluttered. And that's important.